Shabbat Shalom Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon. We are at another Sabbath lecture, and I am veering off a little bit because I'm breaking the schedule of following it Pasha by Pasha, although I sometimes do, and sometimes I go straight to the point of what is needed today rather than following ancient traditions which may not always be what we need at this point in history and time. So according to the history and time, according to the needs of the people, sometimes we have to break away. Now, of course, the Pasha, I'll come to the Pasha, which is, excuse me, the Pasha is, let me open up the Bible, is Miketz in Genesis 41. But before I look into the Pasha or anything, the current update, and a couple of things I want to mention at the very beginning of the lecture so you get exactly what I'm talking about. Number one, first of all, I want to speak about an important subject matter that I feel that you all need to know, that some of you may be struggling, or some of you may be doing it incorrectly, or some of you may be not doing it at all because you don't really care. You're just here for singing and dance. And then some of you who are genuinely struggling and maybe genuinely financially issues, and you want to better your life. So I want to make it so that this teaching will better your life, will improve your life, improve your status, improve who you are as a person. And for that you have to follow instructions. If you don't follow instructions, I can't help you to improve your life. So you must follow instructions. One of the things that I've noticed, and this is not really a criticism as such, but take it as an instruction. The fact that you did it, I think it's good. It's a good attempt. I will credit that as a good attempt. But the fact that you did it wrong, I think I need to correct you. Some of you who might send in a tithe of $10, remember, tithing is what you earn or what you get. If you are getting, let's say, if your income for the month is $2,000, your income, okay, and you gave $10, your income, you gave away $10, instead of what you're supposed to give is $200. So instead of giving $200, which is 10%, by the way, I'm not even saying 20%, because 20% is the above and beyond, where God will bless you immeasurably. But let's say that the 10% you're struggling to give because you don't want to, because you feel you can just get away with $10. So let's say you did $10, which is what? Which is 1/5 of what you're supposed to do. So instead of doing $200, you do $10, which is 1/5 of what God has commanded. How does that affect you? Well, let me tell you how it affects you. All of you who are listening, this is what you need to hear, and hear it succinctly. First of all, the people who are rich in this world today, they didn't just become rich because, they were born into a good family, or their fathers and mothers did something right. No. There was something in their father and mother that they did, that they trained the child with, and the child went that way. And one of the things that I have noticed and I have observed is that those child were givers. They were givers, yes. Even born in Gentile families, they were givers. And in Jewish families, they were givers as well. The Jewish children, the children of the Hebrews, even in America, they are taught to give. And so they gave. And they were taught by their parents, good mothers, good fathers. They taught them, and so they followed suit. And what happened when they gave the money, even if they gave it to the church, to the place where they are not supposed to, you can give taruma, which is love offering. Of course, you can give a love offering, but the tithes only belong to the Kohen in the gate. And let's say you gave it to church pastors. Even then, if your heart was in the right place, God still blessed you. Why? Because you followed the precept of the Torah. The precept of the Torah is that God instructed you how to give your tithes. Now, as I said to you, instead of giving $10, and then you expecting God to make you rich, you will never ever, write this down, you will never ever become rich, because you have strayed away from God's command. God's command is not, receive $2,000 and give $10. That's not God's command. God's command was 10%, and in some cases, God said if you're well off, if you've taken care of all your bills, then you give 20%. 20% is the actual instruction with the zadaqah and the tithes. But let's say you only did 10%. So if you did 10%, then that is for you who's taking $2,000 income, a month would be $200. Now, if you were mean and you thought you could get away with $5 or $10, think what you are doing. That is called theft, by the way. Theft from God. You're not stealing from me, you're stealing from God, and God will thus punish according to that. Because God had said that you steal from me, and then God will recompense you for that. That means He will make your way difficult. Even though you may be giving the $10, He will put problems in your, He will put trials in your face that you will get stuck and you'll be like, what the heck is happening? I'm getting breakdowns, I'm getting problems, I'm getting health issues, I'm getting, my car broke down, my home broke down, my, cooling system broke down. And somebody needs to hear this, because out of you, I'm not saying all of you are guilty of this, but some of you need to hear this because you are guilty of it. And you need to correct yourself. Because if you want to benefit and be blessed, then do the right thing that God has ordained. Listen, God is a God of mercy. God is a God of giving. God has made your birth, you're supposed to be born abundant. And you're not supposed to struggle. But if you don't do the right thing, guess what's going to happen? So come out of this nonsense of, I can just get away with $10 and I don't need to do the full. Do the full requirement. Do it fully. And then see the hand of God. If you want to see the hand of God, then do it fully. I have heard Gentiles say that they give 10% to their favorite church or to their favorite charity, and that their businesses have multiplied exceedingly because they have used the principle that God has ordained. Even though they may not be doing it in the right place, God still blessed them. So therefore you need to learn from that. Why are you struggling? Why are you facing trials and afflictions? Why are you not increasing? Why are you, living check to check? It may be, look at your internals. Look at what you're doing with God. And see, a lot of us, we listen to this BS on the TV, on the media, on the news, and, people denying God, people saying this and people saying that, and, we are created by aliens, and alien civilizations put us here, the Anunnaki were aliens. You hear all of this BS. This is popular lies, popular culture. Listen to me carefully. There is a creator. There is a creator God. We are created by Him. And that's period. Listen, above us is water and below us is water. Prove me wrong. If you prove me wrong, I'll give you $1 billion if you prove me wrong. Even your governments couldn't prove me wrong. Because they lie, they hide, they circumvent, they misrepresent, they give you misinformation, they feed you as a child, so you are brainwashed when you grow up as an adult. They give you movies like Star Trek, they give you other movies, spaceship movies, and they make it sound like there is space above, and we've gone to the moon, and we've gone to the Mars, and we've gone here, and we've gone. Listen to me carefully. My grandfather, my real grandfather, whose name was Joseph, or Joseph, he listen, he said to my father, he said to my dad, he said, listen, this so-called moon landings, he said, this is all fake, this is all lies. And my dad was like, no, but I've seen it in the TV, and they have gone to the moon. And my grandfather was, no, son, listen, this is all lies. They are lying to you. You are believing this BS because you went to England, you went to UK, and you listened to their BS. I'm telling you, this is all lies. And my dad refused to believe his father. He just thought his father was out of touch with reality. He didn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's from a faraway village, and he has some land, and he's a landowner, and he's just a farmer. What the hell he knows about life? Oh yeah, I've been to UK, and I've traveled in a big plane, and I know more than him. See, my dad he became a little bit arrogant with his father. And you know what? When I was born, when I met my grandfather, he was a great man. I liked him. We got on great, even though he didn't get on with some of the other family members, my family members. But I got on really good with him. And the man, right, was humble. He was a religious man. He was a great man, and I had great relationship with him. But many years later, when I grew up and I heard all the same BS, the same nonsense that you have heard when you were children, that about stars, about the moon, and there's no God, and it's atheism, and agnostics were ruling the screen and the media, and they were telling you that there is no God. And when the books like the Dawkins, the books of Dawkins was being popularized in England, all of those times, you know what? I never left God for a second. I never left God. I never stopped believing there is no God. I never stopped believing. And I always remembered what my grandfather said, because my father told me this story. And I always remembered it, that my grandfather said that the moon so-called landings are fake. Now, by the way, my grandfather wasn't an educated man. He was a simple man. He didn't really have smartphone in his day, and there were home phones in those times, but he just knew what he knew, and he believed it wholeheartedly. And many years later, when I came across these fake landings, fake pictures, and more so even today, in 2024, in 2024, social media is full of stories of flat earth, right? Because they tell you the earth is round, and it's not. And then there's the media is full of stories of the firmament and the waters above and the waters beneath. Guess what? The moon landings, the Mars landings, I don't know why, and I don't know. Take it as my opinion, take it as my grandfather's opinion. And I follow my grandfather. My grandfather was right. The moon landings were totally fake. The Mars landings are also fake. They're all faked out to deceive you. There is a continent called Antarctica. Antarctica has a wall. The wall is so thick that the United States in the 50s tried to dig through that wall, and the more they dug, the more thicker it got, and it got into a blue ice, and the blue ice just melted without any water residue, and the wall healed itself. Every time they dug a hole, the wall healed itself. The hole filled. And I don't want to say too much, but all I will tell you is my grandfather was right. Thank you, grandfather. You were right. What you said was right. My father was wrong. My father was wrong, and I can stand in front of my father today and tell him that you were wrong and grandfather was right about the moon. And so I'm telling you, don't deny God. Don't deny His Torah. Don't tell me, oh, there's no Torah. Oh, yeah, it's all fake. Oh, no. Jesus came and everything's done away. Don't give me this baloney. Okay? If you may believe in Jesus, that's okay. You can believe in Jesus all you like. But I am telling you that there is a creator God. There was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That all these stories are true. That God has established covenant with our forefathers. It is all true. And so therefore, it is incumbent upon you to start behaving right. A lot of you are not behaving correctly. You are misbehaving. You are denying the commandments of God. You are trying to stray away from them. And you are then making excuses. And some of you have already departed. Come on, some of you already departed. Last year you departed. 2 years ago you departed. 5 years ago you departed because you went to some other god and goddess. And so it's okay. I don't complain about that, because those that are faithful to God, those that are faithful to Torah, God will reward them, and God will continually reward them. Yes, sure, we can get some trials in our life. Sure, we can have some tests, and God does that, because God gave trials to Abraham. God gave trials to Jacob. But that doesn't mean that he neglected them. It doesn't mean that he forsook them. God never forsakes his people. God never forsakes his covenant. So I am telling you today, fix yourself. Fix yourself. If you don't fix yourself, God will fix you. And if God fixes you, heaven forbid, because it won't, the fixing of God is not an easy fix. It's a very difficult fix, because you know what God does? He orders the demons to go. And when God orders the demons to go and take over, and then they come and attack you spiritually, and then you end up in some disease, and then you end up in some problem, and then you wonder what the hell happened, why I got this problem, why I got that problem, and then your $10 tithe, your $20 tithe won't save you, okay? And I won't even come to save you, because you are disrespectful to the commandments of God. You disrespected God, you disrespected his laws, and even I won't lift up my hands for your redemption at that point, for your rescue. So know this. I'm giving you the last warning, that you fix yourselves, because if you don't fix yourselves, then the next part is that God will act. And when God acts, my goodness, I shudder to think how his actions are going to be against you who are continually dispraising God. So time to repent, time to say, I'm sorry, I didn't know, or I was ignorant, but now you have been told. Okay? Now that you have been told, either you walk away, okay? Walk away and just say, I don't want to do this, because that's it, I don't believe in God. So walk away, because then at least, when God punishes you, the punishment will be according to your walking away. But if you're going to continually be misguided, and you're going to continually deny God's commandment, then God's going to punish you twice over. The punishment is going to be twice over. And then you're going to be like, what the hell happened to me? My family life just went down the drain. My, business went down the drain. And you know what? You'll have nothing, because everything, every penny comes from God. Every blessing comes from God. Health comes from God. Good life comes from God. Good wife comes from God. Good husband comes from God. Good home comes from God. God is the light that we all need, and God supplies everything. So I'm going to, cut my warning over here and say, as a Kohen in the gate, last time I'm going to tell you, fix yourselves or face the music. So now let's come back to the world now, how the world is facing the music. Because the world continues to deny, because the world continues to live in sin and violations of Torah and killing of innocents, therefore God is at march. God is at judgment. And let me tell you, so-called superpower, you know who the superpower, or at least the claims of the superpower. Guess what happened to the superpower's $32 million Reaper in Yemen? It was down by a missile. A missile that was probably didn't even cost $10,000. Yeah, that's how bad the story is. So I think we need to not only pray for leaders that are wise, but we need to pray that if we want a cessation of war, if we want peace, then we need to pray for peace, and we need to act in peace. I was looking, and there was an Indian movie. I only saw like a little bit of it, and they were talking about, back in 2017 or whenever, they were doing missions. India was doing missions against Pakistan, and Pakistan was doing missions against India, and spying back and forth. And I said to myself, if these two neighbors, if India, instead of doing missions against Pakistan, spying missions and infiltrations and bombings in different cities. By the way, India is guilty of that, and I know that. So similarly, Pakistan guilty of bombing different cities in India and spying missions as well. So if both of these countries for a few minutes strive for peace, both looked out for each other, both looked out for peace for each other's neighbor, and then things would be a lot different today. Now, thankfully, when the so-called previous Prime Minister, the one who was in prison, Mr. Imran Khan, in his time, our relations with India became really, really bad back in the East. But today, thankfully, with the new government, the Muslim League Noon government, the relationships are much better, and I'm I am believing that the relationships will improve further, because that government has always had great relationships. Nawaz Sharif has always had great relationships with the Indian prime ministers and so on. So the thing is that we need to, in order to bring peace, we have to pray for peace and we have to act for peace. We can't continually drum up war and then expect peace. You see, drumming up war in the Middle East and then expecting peace is not the solution. Listen, a lot of people want to play God, okay? So what the UAE and Dubai did, because they want to play a little bit God as well, not too much, but a little bit God. So what they do, they try to seed the clouds. So they seeded the clouds with this material, sending up planes regularly, so many hundreds of hours. They send up planes and they put this stuff in the clouds and they make artificial rain in the desert. And so it rained so badly in the desert in the last few days. You may have heard in 2024, it happened in February and it happened again in May, that it was so hard rain that it flooded the cities. Whole cities were flooded both in Saudi Arabia, UAE, and in Dubai, etc. And the cars were like, they were going through the flood like boats. So, we need to. Sure, I'm sure people will say, oh, science, yeah, well, you can keep your science to yourself. I believe and trust in God, and God has put this whole system together, and I trust that He will make this system. He made this system for our benefit. He knows what we are made of. He knows how to benefit us. So I trust in God. I don't want to play God. I don't want to play God and, try to create rain or put a fake sun up there. Did you know that China put a fake sun up there? Did you know that NASA tried to create a fake sun by an illusion? Did you know that? That also happened recently. So be careful. These things are happening all around us. Be careful of the fake sun. Well, how do you know it's a fake sun? Very easy. The flowers, the sunflowers, they turn their back on the fake sun. So there you have it. Even the nature knows what is fake. So I implore you to start to trust God more in your lives. Start to behave according to God and stop behaving like Gentiles, okay? So stop behaving like that. And therefore, the thing that happened last week, as you know, was that this drone, American drone, which is supposed to be very highly classified, highly expensive, highly secretive drone that is supposed to be that nobody can take it down. Well, guess what? The Yemen army shot it down, okay? So that puts the superpower at a laggard. Then we had so-called UK, once the ruler of the ships seas, well, they're no longer rulers of the seas. Now, some people in the Middle East can just come up and can destroy their ships in no time. So that's the end of that power. So listen, it's a change of times. It's a change of times. It's a change of seasons. We are no longer in the 1800s where, people were conquering other people, other kingdoms, other countries, and ruling over them. That time is past. We've gone past that time. So I would suggest highly, but God does not change. Is it so? God's word does not change. Is it so? Yeah, absolutely so. God's word does not change. God does not change. God is the same God today that He was yesterday and today and forever. Baruch Hashem for that. So, the war in Ukraine goes on between Russia and Ukraine's already been defeated 10 times over. Russia, if they wanted, they could have overtaken Kharkiv today, if they want to, but they don't want to overtake it. Russia could march into Ukraine and smash the whole Ukraine down, and Russia don't want to take Ukraine over. The whole idea of Russia was to teach Ukraine a lesson so that Ukraine, because Ukraine was being used by the cabal, by the deep state, and you know who they are, and these people were using Ukraine for their own purposes, for mischievous things, and so Russia just put a stop to that. So therefore, who's right and who's wrong? Well, history is your lesson. Go look at history and look at what's going on around you. Don't just follow media. Don't just follow what people tell you. Stop believing the lies and start realizing the truth. When you read something in the Bible, some people sometimes said, oh, this looks like, fairy tale, maybe legendary. No, it's not fairy tale. It's not legendary. It's absolutely true. Back in the day, chapter 41 of Genesis, it says that it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream, and behold, he stood by the river. So Pharaoh had a dream for 2 years constantly, same dream. He saw these 7 ugly cows come out of the river. And then he saw, his second time he dreamed, he saw these plump grain heads coming out, real good. And for 7 heads of grain, and he didn't know what the heck was going on. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, did not know what's going on. He called all his magicians, all his soothsayers, and none of them could tell him what's going on. They couldn't even tell him his dream, let alone what's going on. Eventually, Joseph came along, the young Joseph. He told Pharaoh what's going on. He told Pharaoh that what is the problem and what is the solution. He gave him the problem and he gave him the solution. And then Pharaoh set Joseph as a prime minister, or a governor if you want to call it, of the whole affairs of the kingdom. And he said, you take care of them. And then Joseph did. And so Joseph took care of it. He took care of the stocking of the grains for the next 7 years when the years were good, and the distributing of the grains when the years were bad and there was a famine in the whole land. So that is the story of the Pasha. But what I'm trying to tell you, listen, if you're not careful of your ways, and if you don't change your ways, you're going to have 7 years of famine, and then you're going to have 7 years of good. So decide what you want. Do you want famine? Do you want good continually? So, decide wisely. I implore you, I ask you to seek God's face and, repent of your sins, your violations of Torah that you have done ignorantly maybe, and maybe deliberately. Ask forgiveness, because time is now to seek forgiveness. And if you don't seek forgiveness, and whoever I'm speaking to, you're going to pay the price for it. And God, those of you who are listening, God has a message for you. He has decreed a blessing on Israel. And if you're Israel, if you're the sons of Israel, the daughters of Israel, sons of Abraham, daughters of Abraham, then God has decreed a blessing upon you. And God is going to continue to bless you. God is not going to stop that blessing. But remember, the blessing has an if command as well. If, then, and else. So if you're in the right state with God, if you are believing in God and you're trusting in Him and you're doing the right thing, then God is going to continue to bless you. He's going to continue to provide for you. While the world can go, to the left direction, and the world can have floods, the world can have hurricanes, the world can have earthquakes, but you will be provided for. Why? Because you trusted in God. You trusted in the Maker. Give me a second. Okay, yeah, sorry. I went to switch the lights on, it became dark. So, as I was saying to you, that you trusted in the Maker and God is decreeing for you a blessing. God's going to give you a financial blessing, those of you trusted in God. God's going to bless you. God is going to raise you higher. God is going to make sure that you're taken care of because you believed in God, you trusted in Him, and even in your times when things were not exactly going your way, God is going to shine through your lives. This is for you. And don't worry about, moments, maybe weeks, maybe months, a few months of issues, challenging times. Don't worry about that because God's going to come through. God's going to come through for you and God's going to bless you. But remember, last week I gave you a method. I gave you a method and I said, do this every day and God will bless you. But ask God. After you've done this, I gave you 2 words. I gave you the word ha-mitzvah, ha-chukim, and I said to you, after doing those 2 words 33 times, that ask God what you want. Ask Him. Because ask and it shall be given. Remember Jesus, what did Jesus say? Jesus we can go and look at what Jesus said, just to make sure that, I'm not making things up. And you might say, well, Jesus didn't say this. Well, so that I'm not making things up, I will go and read Jesus' exact words. So for that, we have to go to the book of Matthew, I believe it's chapter 6. And in chapter 6 of the book of Matthew, where there's also Jesus' famous prayer, Jesus goes on, and if we, let's see, 33, no, that may be chapter, not 6, it may be chapter 7, because 6:33 is seek first his kingdom, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added on to you. And then I believe it's chapter 7, and if we go on to the next chapter, chapter 7, verse 7, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened. Therefore, when you have done what I have told you to do 33 times every day, ask God what it is that you require. Ask Him. And then that is what God will deliver to you. I mean, if it's a job, if you're looking for a job and you require a work because maybe you're unemployed, and then you ask God for a job, okay? God will supply you the job. If you are looking for a great wife in your life because you don't have a wife, then ask for a wife. If you are ill, you got ill health, and you're looking for health, then ask God for health. All I can tell you right this point, right, all means that some things I can tell you, is that when people get illnesses and they get afflictions, usually, a lot of the times we think, it's because I ate too much this or too much that. But majority of the times there are we do live in a realm, a magnetic earth, an earth which spins, it spins like a bowl, like a bowl around and around, kind of like in a circle. But it's not what you see on TV. The earth is not like that. Okay, so the thing is this, that we have a firmament above, so we have a firmament, we have a waters above, waters beneath, and we have waters underneath. In other words, even below the oceans there are rivers, there are lakes. So, there is Sheol. Sheol is the pit, is in the deep earth. Then below Sheol we also have water. Okay, so we have lakes, and this is already proven because so-called explorers in America, they went really deep into the sea. This is a long time ago, and the man actually found a lake under the sea, and he died because he couldn't come back for some reason, and his submarine was bouncing off this lake, but he was able to report it at the time, and then I think something happened to him, not quite sure, and he died. So there is water under the earth and there's water above. Okay, and there are clips of Elon Musk's rocket going up and hitting the water, and then you can see the gas of, you can see the rocket propelling through the water. So guess what's up there? Not space as you've been shown in movies, water. So think about it. So, stop believing the erroneous lies and the deceptions that are put out there by the so-called media. Stop believing, God for a change. Start reading your Bible. Stop believing what God says. So, having said that, just as Pharaoh was confused, he's a confused man. He was a builder and a holder of a kingdom, yet he had no control over his dreams, and he had no control over the land. I mean, Pharaoh had no magic. Pharaoh had magicians, Pharaoh had wise men, but Pharaoh had no such magic to prevent the 7 years of famine and the 7 years of the goodness. So similarly, when God brings something into your life, you may or may not be able to stop it. Listen to this. I'm giving you testimony from the past. In 2015, between 2014 and 2016, there was some really violent, how shall we call it? What do you call them? Not earthquakes, but these, tornadoes, and not even tornadoes. These big, things that come from the sea. I'm kind of missing the word. So these big things that come from the sea is like hurricane. Yeah. So hurricanes came between 2014 and 2016. At one time, I was speaking to some students of mine, and we were going to be hit. I was in Florida back then, in Pensacola, Florida, and I said to my students, some of my students were around the Orlando, Tampa area, and I said that I can turn this hurricane away. And they said, okay, do it if you can. I said, of course I can do it. So what I did, right, the hurricane, I remember Mr. Trump became president in 2016, and I remember even then he issued a warning, and he said that the hurricane's going to hit Florida, and I said, no, it's not going to hit Florida, I'm going to turn it away. So I turned it away, and guess where the hurricane ended up? In the Carolinas. It never hit Florida. And even during the time between 2014 and 16, when there was a hurricane headed directly for, I believe it was Tampa and Orlando side, and I changed the trajectory of the hurricane, it was a miracle that happened, that water did not come inland. It stayed outside. And a couple of my students actually told me that. They said, you know what, the first time in history first time in our lives we saw that the water never came in. It stayed out there in the sea. So it was amazing. So yeah, the Kohen has power to do that. Don't worry about that. I have the authority and the power to do such things. But I'm telling you and I'm warning you that those of you who are misfits of the Torah, those of you who take the Torah as a joke, and those of you who take God as a joke, you're going to pay the price for it. Rest assured. I don't need to say any more than that. And don't come to me for prayers after that. Don't say to me, pray for me, because I won't be praying for you. That's for sure. So, having said that, if you are continually violating the Torah and you don't change your ways and you're not going to adjust and fix your ways, you're going to pay the price, and so be it. You've been warned many times before and you haven't listened. So, I'm going to leave it at that. And I know that a lot of you don't like this. Some of you may not like the message. But you know what? It is what it is. It's going to happen what's going to happen. And those of you who have remained faithful, those of you who remained steadfast, God is going to bless you. God's going to open a new door for you. And you're going to be blessed. Some of you looking for a job, a new door is going to be opened for you. You're going to get your job. Okay? Those of you who are willing and who have the ear to hear and ear to understand, I'm not talking about the 2 ears. There's another kind of ear, that if you have that ear, then God is opening a new door for you. So be thankful. When God opens a new door for you and you get your job, or if you were ill, you get health, what you should always do, what you must always do, is give a Tudah offering. What's a Tudah offering? A Tudah offering is a thank you offering. A thank you offering can occur in a number of ways. Some people, they do a sheep in the sense that they give the equivalent of a sheep. Some people do the equivalent of a goat. Some people, they may say, okay, I'm going to give $100 as sadaqah to God. Some people say, no, I'm going to give the value of a sheep. Some people say, I'm going to give the value of a camel, depending on how God has been gracious to you. What you have come through. If you were ill for many years and suddenly you got healed, of course, you're very grateful that you got healed. So you give a thank you offering. Of course, if you're unemployed and God gave you a job, you give a thank you offering. Of course, if you were single and you were looking for a great wife and God provided you a wife, husband, then, you give a Tudah, you give a thank you offering. This is how you thank God. This is how you glorify God. So you need to learn these things. And I'm teaching you these things so that you know how to act when this thing occurs. Okay? So with that, Remember, there are other parts to what I gave you regarding to be blessed. And I've only given you one part. If you act that one part of the command I gave you of daily, 33 times in the morning when you wake up, 33 times at night. Okay? 33 times in the morning, you could count on your fingers, and 33 times at night. And then give thanks to God and ask whatever you want to God, and God will supply you. Just be a little patient. I mean, God is gracious. God can do it in a week, and God can do it in a month, and God can do it in an hour. So be faithful, be sincere, and God will reward you with such a thing. Also, just on the testimony front, the family that we are helping back in the East, I had the girl tell me that they have a fridge issue and the food goes off, etc., and they're having problems how to maintain their food, their wet food, I guess, food that they cook. And so I told her, I said, well, be patient and let's give thanks to God, and let's wait for God to supply our needs. So I'm trying to raise about $400 for that family, so that I may get them a decent freezer, so that they can use that for their needs. So we'll see if those of you who wish to donate, the score, how to donate. You got Venmo, you got PayPal. I've given you the link to PayPal. It's on our website under the links section. So there is Venmo, there is Chime, there's various methods, and there's my bank. So there's a number of ways that you can send your donations in, and by all means, whatever you send is holy and truly appreciated, and I'm grateful for your assistance and help, and God bless you and keep you safe as you go along the way on this Sabbath. Now, there are many things that are happening in the world, and I read a lot of stories about the goings on of the demonic realm, how the demons are afflicting people. So I just say that God, will keep His protection over you. As long as you're in the Torah, God will keep His protection over you. And those of you who are playing with the Torah, there is no protection for you. So you can expect to be called by the demons, and the demons will love to come to your home and to wreck your life. I can guarantee you that. And I read those stories, and I'm like, well, I have warned the people. I have told them what to do, and if they don't listen, then it is not in my hands to do anything for them. But for those of you who are sincere, those of you who are faithful, there is help, there is assistance, there is a wall of protection around you. God is around you as fire. His angels are fire. He's around you, and He protects you, and He guards you. He will not allow anything to come through. If you're in Torah and you're faithful, He won't allow anything to come through. Nothing can touch you. So be faithful, be sincere, be happy, and be blessed. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbat. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Until next time we speak, Shabbat Shalom to you, and Shalom Shalom to you.